morning, world. Welcome to the Rise Up with Dragon podcast with your host, Dragon.
And we start the podcast. Great morning, world. Thank you, my sweetie.
You're welcome.
Chicken just brought me a hot tea. Oh, you're going to sit with me today?
Yeah, I'm going to listen.
Awesome. Every now and then, while I'm broadcasting this, I'm honored by having the chicken sitting across from me. We have to get a picture every now and then of Chicken and what her hair looks like in the morning. The best way I can describe it is if you, I'm going to date myself, but if you remember those things that you used to put on the ends of pencils and spin the pencil around and the hair would get all crazy, that's what my chicken looks like in the morning. So great morning, world. Let's just have a reality check. Just enjoying the discomfort of, I got my shirt on. For people on Clubhouse, they can't see this, but I'm streaming live on Facebook, on YouTube, and all these different things. And my shirt today says, "Embrace the suck." That's not something that I do as a way of like assuming that things are going to suck. It's just an understanding that, everything that we desire sits on the other side of a pile of shit. You know what I mean? So if you don't learn how to, take control and respond to the poop, learn how to go under it, over it, through it, or whatever, by strengthening your response system. And you also don't recognize that it exists and it always stands in the way of everything you desire, you're fooling yourself. So in any case, great morning, world. I'm also streaming on Clubhouse. So the people that are in Clubhouse, it's just a new platform. I'm going to try something interesting here because one of the challenges with Clubhouse, to the people listening in Clubhouse, is that Clubhouse is not recorded. So I've been jumping in a bunch of Clubhouse rooms, and I've got some really cool ideas of doing some Clubhouse rooms with some high performance people. And I love this new platform of Clubhouse because you can interact with people. And somebody in Clubhouse could actually raise their hand and ask me a question on the podcast. But because I'm streaming this live, it sits, if somebody from Clubhouse hears something and then they want to revisit it or share it with somebody else that missed it, I'm also streaming this live on the internet via YouTube and Facebook. And then also it is being recorded as my next podcast on Rise Up with Dragon. So a lot going on. And I love to put myself into that atmosphere because I've got a message, and I always look at myself as kind of an antenna that's receiving information because I'm awake and I'm alive, and I'm open and I'm receiving information from the universe, and I write it down and I do my journal entries and then I share it with other people. And I know that I'm getting a lot of positive feedback. I know a lot of people like these rise ups because it kind of unlocks them and sets the tone for the day. But I was talking to Chicken today about that. I'm always asking myself why I do it. What do I get out of it? I mean, I like helping people. I love delivering the goods and getting the positive feedback. But the distinction that I made is that when I wake up, because she sees me wake up every day very early, and I go through my Rise Up routine, which is a whole chapter in my book. And part of the process for me is I have these ideas and I just freely allow myself to journal and I write them down. But when I take what I wrote, as I'm about to do, and I share it with the public, what happens for me selfishly is I start to, we're getting some people coming in. Great morning to you folks. Hey, Tanya. But when I explain it to people and I unpack it the way I'm about to do it, I just take ownership of it. So, take that. And that's why I always say, if you learn something today, give it away. That's how it's going to stay. What I mean by that is I'm going to give away what it is that I created this morning, and I'm going to take ownership of it in the day. So if you do learn something today, even if it's just a little nugget, share it with somebody. Share this information, share the podcast, share the live stream, share the Clubhouse room. I'm going to be doing these on Mondays and Fridays all month. I feel like a comedian. I'll be here all month. But that's when I'm going to do these rise ups, and we've got a bunch of other cool shows coming up on On Thursdays at 1 p.m., I'm just streaming live on Clubhouse, and that's going to be the Building a Life-Based Business. And I've got a special guest this week, and that's Greg Kimball, who's got a great story, and he's definitely building his business around the things that matter most. And then I always do the bright side with my good friend Howie Craw, and that's on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern. So a lot of opportunities for you, but a lot of opportunities for me to share. So I'm going to get into today's Rise Up today. And remember, I'm going to share with you some stuff that is going to give you the ability to think about these things, question them in your own life. And if you're watching this on the live stream, you can always ask me questions. And if you're listening on Clubhouse, you can raise your hand and I can field that question. But this is a really, really cool topic. And the topic today is the topic of risk. But before I jump into that, before I wrote about risk, I came up with a couple of cool thoughts, and I call these dragon thoughts, THOTS. So I just wrote this one. Success is a drug that doesn't come with a warning label. Isn't that interesting? You know, when you look at success, it's a drug and it doesn't come with a warning label like most medicines do about side effects. So that might be one of the reasons we struggle with it so much is there's a lot of unknowns attached to it. Here's another one. When the conscious mind is present, you have your hands on the controls. You know, I love that. So I was thinking about this morning. And these are these little bits and pieces you can take with you during the day. And remember, you can ask questions. Can't ask questions if you're listening to this as a podcast. You just have to reach out. And by the way, on my Instagram is that guy JC Dornick. My DM is open. So if somebody wants to DM me and ask me a question there, you can do that too. But yeah, just identify that 95% of our brain, you know, in our day is run by our unconscious mind. So when you're allowing your unconscious pre-programmed mind by your programmers, you're not really in control. So when your conscious mind, and you can snap into that right now, and your conscious mind is present, which by the way happens when you're taking risks, and we'll get into that, you have your hands on the control. True health is achieved by a collaboration between the body, mind, and soul. Think about that word collaboration. I love that word. Let's collaborate today. That's what I said to my body, my mind, and my soul. In my soul, I'm thinking about my heart. Hey guys, let's collaborate. You know, Chicken on her amazing podcast, which is called Karma Mind, not Karma Minds, Karma Mind. Karma Mind, which is unbelievable. And she just dropped a new one, which was just awesome. You know, one of our new routines in the morning is when we lay in bed and we have coffee, we listen to one of her meditations, and it's just so awesome. The music is awesome and just, you know, really, really transports you. But, you know, that's very often she talks about the harmonizing of your brain and your heart. And you know, just adapting these kind of, we talk about these gamma waves of, you know, this state of mind where you're gamma waves and you're making better choices, you're able to recall information, and you're closer to that state of flow. Love that. So it's already been done, so you can do it. In fact, you can do what hasn't yet been done. I just love the idea. You know, I was thinking about Roger Bannister, who broke the 4-minute mile. Before he did that, you know the story. Nobody thought they could do it. But then all of a sudden he did it and everybody started doing it. So think about your goal today, your physical, your mental, your financial, or your collaborative goal to have all of those. Because we're just about, you know, time sensitive for the podcast people. We're launching into February right now. We just had an epic January. 2021 is looking fantastic if you've chosen to look at it that way. But look at your goals and just identify, maybe even seek out people, and that's who you should be mentored by. Seek out the people that have already achieved them and get mentored by them, because they can show you how to get it, but also you recognize it's already been done, so you can do it as well. And then I just had this cool thought that I got from a little time I spent with the amazing Greg Braden, who is the author of one of my favorite all-time books called The Divine Matrix. He just talked about this idea. He goes, do you think Einstein ever woke up saying, oh man, I got to get up today and do this damn relativity thing, right? No, he didn't say that. Or did Picasso ever wake up and say, oh shit, I got to just do these damn paintings and stuff? No, because they were obsessed with it right? They were obsessed with the things that they wanted. So my question to you today, before we jump into this rise up on the topic of risk, is what are you obsessed with? What are you obsessed with? Because the chances are whatever you're obsessed with is showing, right? Are you obsessed with your dreams or are you obsessed with your problems? And does it show? You know, what time is it? This is my last one. It's now. And that means it's go time. And then the last message I have, I never choose a side in the Rise Up with Dragon world. And Chicken never does that as well. We have our opinions, but we keep them to ourselves. But obviously right now, I see a lot of people that are very, very passionate and very, very obsessed, passionately obsessed with stuff that is going on, right? And I won't mention those things because then they will, identify that I'm picking a side. But a lot of people are obsessed about stuff right now. And to those people, first of all, I commend you about being obsessed about something and passionate about something. My only desire and my only wish is that you also make an assessment that you're spending enough time being obsessed with the things that matter most. Because we have a tendency of getting carried away, so far carried away with politics, work, current events and all that stuff, or other people and happenings in life that we forget about the things that matter most. So listen, if you're out there and you're being obsessed about stuff, hey, you go on with your bad self, but just remember your kids. Just remember what matters most. Remember your health and things like that, because this is called life and it's an experience. And very often we get so obsessed with things that don't matter so much or things that are out of our control that we forget to live. So today's topic is risk, right? Risk is an interesting word. So I'm going to share with you my journal entry today. And this is a little bit of this is a little bit of an excerpt from the book. The book is just going to be just awesome. So risk is an interesting word to make sense of. It's one of those words that carry many concepts due to the way that it's been programmed and loaded into our brains. So think about what risk means to you, right? There's similar words to risk like that have been programmed into our brains, like failure, right? So failure is like, who likes to fail? But then you read every book in the world that says fail forward, right? And everything that you desire requires risk. But the first time you hear that word, you hear the way it's been programmed. Or the word hard, right? Or even maybe the word ego, I always heard the word ego and I would say, I don't have an ego, or something like that, which is me protecting my ego. But then I would learn that ego is not a bad thing. You don't want to stifle your ego. You just want to put it in check. And then the other words are selfish and overwhelmed. I love the word selfish because, we're taught that to not be selfish. But then again, human beings don't think, say, or do anything that doesn't give them value. We're value-seeking missiles. So you're all selfish, right? But when you look to gain from something that helps others gain, is that a bad thing? Well, it's still selfish. And then overwhelm, and I speak a lot about overwhelm. So sometimes when you become open and truly seek growth, you have to become open and truly seek growth to the point where you are ready to do whatever it takes. A big part of that is rewiring your brain to look at words like risk. So here's what I'm saying is when you make that conscious decision to actually move forward, right? And you're like, I'm all in, right? And that's a quality decision that takes into account the fact that who knows, if you are currently trying to get to a place that you've never been, well, then you have to be open to some unknowns, right? But that's how, that's the first step in rewiring our brain. We have to look at words like risk and identify how they are actually necessary for growth. So what I'm going to invite you to do right now is to become friends, to open up a relationship with the word risk today, to invite it in, not to shut it out because of the program. So let's come at risk from 3 vantage points today. So we're going to look at it from different vantage points. One of the most valuable things I've ever done is I've learned to not just look at something. Great morning to you. It's interesting, people that are coming in, because I'm using StreamYard, and saying hi to me, it says Facebook user. So I don't know who you are. So when you come in, if you haven't loaded your name in there and you say hi, just let me know who you are if I know you so I can say hi back to you. So we're going to look at this from 3 angles. 3 vantage points, because one of the most valuable things you can do is not just take something at first glance. To walk around it, I call that holographic vision, and that's from my book. So at first glance and the first perception, the science of the word risk is pretty cool, right? We're going to look at what its value is when it is present and versus absent. So those are different vantage points. We're going to look at the science of the word risk, because if you can appreciate what happens to you, viscerally and scientifically when you're in the state of risk, you might create a different appreciation. And then another vantage point would be to look at the idea of being in a state of taking a risk versus not. Right? So at first glance, this is that first one, we tend to either shy away from risk or embrace its value. Now, if you've read a book about risk and its value, maybe you're taking risks right now because you understand that. But for the most part, if you look at statistics and how many people are not moving forward in life or spending more time on problems rather than solutions, you can see that most people are shying away from the things that they need to do on a regular basis to have the have. Right? So most people shy away from risk, and a few people embrace it. I think after today, you guys will learn how to embrace it. So, however, this decision is made by your analytical mind, and that aspect of your mind, second page of my journal entry, that aspect of your mind has been programmed. Remember this. The aspect of however you're looking at things right now, your current reality has been programmed by your MFTPS, your mother, father, your teacher, preacher, and society. Those are your programmers, right? So the only type of risk you'll embrace is the one that either offers you a near guarantee, right? What kind of risk am I taking here? What's the guarantee? So that's one of the reasons we shy away from risk if there's no guarantee. So we typically take the one that either offers a near guarantee or the one that you were taught to take. Think about that. So we're acknowledging right now, we're stepping into that conscious moment where we're gonna capture the controls, and we're just gonna acknowledge that, if we're shying away from something or we're saying that this is a risk worth taking, that's something that we were taught. So embracing risk will in large part require getting past the front gates of your analytical mind. Now, this is where Chicken's podcast comes in really, really handy. She's smiling because I'm like giving her another spiff, but it's true. Meditation is one of the most powerful things in the world. And it's one of those things that we kind of like all know we should do, but we don't do. I tell everybody that I take a nap in the afternoon, but I'm not just going and sleeping. Very often it's a meditation thing. And that's why Chicken and I listen to her meditative podcast, because it helps put us in there. But what it really does is it helps people get past their analytical mind. When you get into this meditative state, you can access different types of brain waves and just be a more efficient, effective person. But another thing you can do is bypass your analytical programmed mind that creates perceptions. So there's many ways to do this, by the way, but meditation is one of the most effective ones. That's why it's so powerful to use a tool that helps you get in meditation. Was that good, sweetie?
I love it. Thank you.
But it's true though. It's true. Such as meditation, yes, most don't have time to meditate on decisions all the time. So think about it. If you say, okay, I'm going to meditate to make better decisions, or, and assess risk and things like that. Who's got time to say, hold on a second, risk, I'm going to meditate on it. So the fastest way to access risk or the value of risk and bypass your programmed analytical mind is to allow yourself to become open to accessing it from a different vantage point. So that's what we're doing right now, is if you can just create a relationship with the word risk or the concept of risk, that's a way that you can bypass it. Like for me, I consider myself a risk taker, right? I love risk. And the reason why is because of my relationship with it. And I understand what it is about. And I'm also not afraid of the other side of risk. And to be honest with you, this is how Dragon gets a little bit deep, and Chicken knows this. I have a chapter in my book or a section called Decoding the Game. I'm one of those people that, I don't buy anything, by the cover. You know what I mean? Like I'm deep diving right now and just looking at the pros and cons and the possibilities and the negatives of the idea that this whole world is a simulation. So I'm totally fine by taking risks, because if you look at this whole life experience as a game, right? The whole idea of if we watch your kids play a game, they take all kinds of risks. Now, the reason why they're taking risks is because they know that all they have to do is push the restart button or pick up some sort of elixir and get their life back or something like that. But life is not too far from that, because you guys know what it's like to have a terrible day, and then all of a sudden you just get a revitalization and reboot of some sort, and you have a good day. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that this is just all a game and a simulation. So I like to take a different vantage point. So this brings up the second, and third vantage points. So the second one is appreciating the studies and the science of risk. You're going to love this. Remember, I'm offering you a different vantage point of risk, because all you have to do today is take some risks, some calculated risks, but also some uncalculated risks, some unknown risks and things like that. You have to kind of live in risk. So this is really cool when you acknowledge the science of risk. So first, acknowledging that every single book about achieving success embraces the connection. Our cat is messing things up. Thank you. So you just heard Delilah on the podcast. So let me start that again. So every single book that you've ever read about achieving success embraces the connection of overcoming obstacles and taking risks. Everybody knows that. There's a book called The Obstacle is the Way. It's a great book. So everybody understands that. So both calculated risks and not, as I said before. In fact, taking a calculated risk is widely advised, right? In fact, it's everything that stands in the way of you and everything you desire. We call it failing forward. So when you say, I'm going to fail forward, you understand that's you taking risks. You're not worried about failing because it's actually the way that you move forward. Next is the acknowledgement that risk has been shown to be one of the primary triggers. This is cool. And this is what Chicken spoke about the other day. We were talking about this idea of getting in the flow state. I use a different terminology for it. This is when everything is flowing and you're just, it's like runner's high, but in life, and you have a good day and everything just falls into place and you're not worried about things and you're confident and everything is just going well. Well, there's ways of hacking that state. In my book, I refer to that state as the calm, where you understand the difference between things that are in your control and things that are not in your control. You understand how to delineate what matters and what doesn't, as if you're like Jason Bourne in one of his scenes where just like boom, 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 he just beats up like 15 people and knows exactly where the escape route is, and there's a car waiting outside and he gets away, right? And puts a gun over his shoulder and kills somebody 4 miles away, right? So he's in the flow state. So what's cool, and this is how risk comes into it, risk has been shown to be one of the primary triggers of this heightened state of human performance that we call the flow state, or accessing this completely just high performance gamma brain state that all humans have the ability to get into. So yes, taking risks can snap you into form and can simulate that gamma brainwave and state where you're on your toes, and you tap into some of these human abilities. So think about that for a second. Just for a second, think about the idea of taking risk. So it's a frightening thing to do, right? But when we're frightened, we're also in a heightened state. So when I take risk, I have this sense about me where I take things more seriously, and when I take things more seriously, I'm in a heightened state. Right? So think about that. If you take a risk today, you're not going to do that and just say, screw it, right? What you're going to do is you're going to be like looking around and you're like, okay, I'm taking a risk. I better get my act together right now. So what happens in that moment, because you took a risk, is a better version of you, a more efficient version that can recall things and just, kick ass. It's a kick-ass version of you. So the third vantage point and value of taking risk is the assessment, the acknowledgement of the difference between, or the value and the potential that, comes from either taking a risk or not. So I started a group a long time ago called What's the Risk? And it was all based on this principle, and everybody got it and they started to take risks. And once they started to take risks, they failed more, but they also succeeded more and they had better life experience. So what's cool about this is what's the risk of taking a risk versus not? So it's interesting to look at risk from this vantage point. So you see that taking a risk has two outcomes. So what are the two outcomes of taking a risk? One is failure, and that's what you're afraid of. But the other one is success and a big victory. So think about that. There's two options when you take a risk. You're either going to win or you're going to lose. But look at the option, connect it with your goal, because a lot of times we don't take risks because we want to stay safe and say, I'm just going to keep things at ease. Good enough is good enough, right? But remember something. If you desire something, you're not going to have it unless you do something to get it. So if you don't take a risk, you're automatically guaranteeing that you're not going to have that thing. So remember that failure is widely accepted now as success to whether or not you fail. Wait, what does this say? Remember that failure is widely accepted now as success to whether you fail or succeed, you win. That makes no sense at all. But what I think I'm trying to say there is that failure is something that is widely accepted as success because we understand that we fail forward. So if we fail, it's no longer looked at as something opposite of success. It's a step towards success. So not taking a risk has one outcome. Nothing happens. So which choice, this is the end result of this podcast and this live and all these things and this Clubhouse and all that stuff. And what I'll do on Clubhouse, because I see some people joining me on Clubhouse, once I stop the podcast, I will invite people to hang out and chat about this topic a little bit. But when we don't take a risk, nothing happens. So which choice, the risk or not, carries more potential and leverage for success. So that's it, So what I hope is that you gain from that and you identify that the thing that you very often shy away from is actually the actual thing that will get you what you want. And that's kind of the secret of life is, just recognizing that success is there for everybody. The only reason that the universe would ever even provide or, put an obstacle in front of you or challenge you to observe something and recognize that there's risk because the universe is in favor of your success. A lot of people will identify that right now the world is not really in favor of our success. There's a lot of challenges, but if you look at it from the vantage point that the dragon just shared, that actually opens up a new way of looking at things and say there's more potential for success than ever because there's more challenge and adversity than ever. So hope you enjoyed that. We're going to stop the live and the podcast, and I'll leave the because I see some of my friends on Clubhouse, but we'll leave that on. And this one is saved on Facebook and YouTube. And I love and appreciate you. You can subscribe to the podcast. There's plenty of other stuff in there. You can get the 15 days of oh my God, I can't even remember of discipline. The 15 days of discipline are on there, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff if you're into this kind of thing, into accessing that wet piece of meat in your brain and getting more out of it. If you learned something today, give it away. That's how it's going to stay. You can DM me or check me out on Instagram at IG, that guy, JC Dornick, or sign up and follow me on Clubhouse, and you'll get into these other rooms. I'm going to have some big dogs coming in there and going over some big discussions and conversations. And you can find me on Clubhouse at, if you got to download Clubhouse. Actually, I have some invites to Clubhouse right now. So if somebody wants to reach out to me that is not in Clubhouse, I can get you one. But you'll find me at Make Sense in Clubhouse. So love and appreciate you. Have a wonderful day.